Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
Welcome back to Saturday Social. Joining myself and Joe on the show this week is an SDS podcast reunion here with Lyes and Faysal, and they are joined by the Saturday Social whiteboard that already has 20 magnets on.
Yeah.
20 Premier League clubs, Joe. So what's the plan, mate?
Yeah, we want to look at some of the best players in the Premier League. So we want to pick out the best player so far this season at all 20 Premier League clubs. You've each put together your list of 20. You're going to bring a name to the table, debate it head-to-head, and only one player can go up onto the board at a time.
Like it. And as always, it's not who me and Joe think. We're going to base it on the best argument brought forward. So
This season as well.
Let's start with
we do love
alphabetical
arguing
order.
too.
We do like arguing, you two, yeah. Let's reveal your first picks. We'll start in alphabetical order with Arsenal. Who's been their player of the season so far? Declan Rice. Declan Rice. And I would agree it's Declan Rice.
Declan Rice, why?
He's their midfield. He's changed the midfield. He's a workhorse defensively going forward. Saliba's there. Saka has been inconsistent this season, but when it comes to Arsenal's best player this season, it has to be Deckers.
I'm glad you shouted Saliba out as well. I think he's worth a mention, but yeah. If you both
I think
agree,
he's been the
Rice.
signing of the season. I know Maddison was doing really well, but I think since that injury, it's kind of like...
Yeah.
Best midfielder in the league for you this season?
Yeah, maybe.
can say
Rodri
that.
has been really good, but
Yeah.
out of the team
With
through
his
suspension.
suspensions.
Rice has been excellent, man.
Okay. Next up.
This is uncommon, man. We're arguing.
And everything. Aston Villa. Friends.
Douglas Luiz. Talk to us about Douglas Luiz.
We have a friend, Fuizzi, on SDS. This guy is in like the top 1,000 of FPL right now, and it's because he's had this guy in his team from week one. The revelation. Unai Emery deserves so much credit this season, but one of his biggest successes is the coaching job individually that he's done on Douglas Luiz. We knew he was a good player coming from the City Academy, but this guy has chipped in with goals this season, has shown that he's a terrific midfielder from deep. And we were talking about United, talking about their defensive midfield issues. He could be someone they could seriously look at. I think he's been great this year.
John McGinn as well, potentially.
Yeah, Ollie Watkins.
Ollie
Yeah, a
Watkins
few
there as well.
candidates, to be fair, yeah.
Paul Torres as well had a good the way of changing that defence of Aston Villa.
Yep.
But again, this guy, double pivot, lone pivot, he's been their best midfielder.
Yeah, most touches, possession one, and pass in the option half for Villa in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, linked also with a move to Arsenal.
5
as
goals,
well,
2
wasn't
assists.
it?
A lot of teams could do with him, man. Good
So
player.
there's loads of agreements so far. Let's move to Bournemouth. I think this is the first disagreement that we've got. So let's reveal who you've
interesting.
got.
I've got Semenyo.
Yeah, and you've gone with Solanke.
Dom Solanke.
Why Dom?
Why?
I just think that when you talk about the big strikers in this league, right, the one that's kind of taken everyone's attention this year is Watkins. This guy has as many goals as Watkins, playing in a much worse team, a much less successful team. But I think he's starting to show you now that in terms of like all-around center forward, he kind of has everything in his locker. I'm not going to say at an elite level, but he's a very well-balanced center forward. And I think he's showing that the early promise that we saw in the Chelsea Academy when Liverpool signed him, there's a reason why these teams rated him that highly.
Already his best ever Premier League goal scorer in the season below. Bournemouth's top scorer in all comps, 9. Got 8 Premier League goals. Good return. Great
Yeah,
start.
Why Semenyo, not Solanke?
Yeah.
For me, he's been the catalyst of how Irola has been playing for Bournemouth. You were seeing a different style compared to what was going on, and it's because of this guy. Whether on the right-hand side, left-hand side, most of the goals is made and created by this guy. He's been so influential in the way he plays. And like I said, whether you want to play as a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1, Solanke's success comes down to this guy because how versatile he is and how much of a team player he is.
Very good argument
You know
put
what?
forward.
Very good argument.
Right,
put forward.
Faysal. Yeah, have you got any riposte to the...
Riposte.
I like that word. 8 Premier League goals. I mean, look, I think Solanke, in terms of best center forwards in the league this season, ranks highly. Semenyo, my counter argument, it might not be the best, but where does he rank in terms of the players in this position?
Goals are great, goals are cute, but when it comes
Goals
to
are
the
vital
most
for a team like
important
Bournemouth.
player of the team, it's Semenyo.
I would argue it's Solanke.
I think that Faisal's argument was the better argument there.
Okay,
and I think
and
because of that goes up on the board.
interestingly,
I would have gone for Solanke.
Yeah, I think we were both edging towards Solanke, but
Off camera,
it is
you sold
your
us.
argument that goes with it. So
Off camera, we were saying, weren't we, pre-show, we were saying
Joe and I
Solanke.
both said
He's a good player.
Solanke, but the argument is
great.
what this is based on. Your argument was stronger. Redeem yourself
There's-
for Brentford, Lyes.
I've gone with Brian Mbeumo, and it's going to be a
shout.
huge loss being out for the next 12 weeks. Already, they've been missing Ivan Toney for the first half of the season, and Mbeumo, I really believe, had taken that leap to making sure that Tony's absence wasn't as heavy as it really should have been, because Tony's one of the best best center forwards in this league, 20 goals in the league last season. But Mbeumo has almost made it like they've really not felt the miss in terms of his goals. He struck up a great partnership with Vis up front. He's been their main penalty taker, their main goal scorer, their main hold-up guy up there, runs the channel as well. I think Mbeumo has really taken that responsibility this season. I think it's a shame that that good form that he was in is kind of going to be put on hold for the next few months.
I think that's actually a really good point in that, because when we knew that Tony would be out for so long, he has filled a void that has been left by him in terms of goals, assists, all-round game, work rate. I think that's a really good shout that you make. But you disagree.
I've gone with Jensen.
You've gone with Jensen. Why?
If you go to Brentford this season, if they win, Jensen's playing. The last 5 games, which they haven't won a single game, it comes down. And Wembley, of course, missed the last game, but Jensen hasn't played the last 5 games, and they kept losing and losing because they're missing that main man in that midfield. He's been chipped in with goals this season. He chipped in with assists this season, and that's because of Jensen. When we look at Brentford, Wissa's there, and Mbeumo's there, Ivan Toney's there, but we always forget the person that dictates the midfield.
I disagree, actually. I think Norgard is a bit more important in that midfield than Jensen. I would have gone with Norgard over Jensen.
Norgard has played this season, but when Jensen, all the games that Brentford's lost this season comes down to Jensen's been absent in that midfield. Norgard's played every single game.
I think it's 2 good shouts.
I think he's unavailable.
I think let's go with Mbeumo for your argument, and of course there's numbers as well. 15 Premier League, 7 goals, 3 assists. So for me, Mbeumo just edges it.
Do we have an agreement next at Brighton?
Yeah, this one for me is a top player.
Do you think he's underrated? We did a feature last week, underrated, and neither of our guests put Pascal Gross, and I couldn't believe it because I think he's one of the most underrated players in the Premier League, personally.
Yeah, me and my friends, we have like this running joke that like from September to November, like the best player in the world is Pascal Gross and solely March. But to be fair to him, we're in December now, and he's still putting up performances. And I think the brilliant thing about Gross as well is his versatility. He can play right back, he can play left back, he can slot into midfield, goal-scoring threat, wonderfully technical player. I completely agree. I think he's one of the most slept-on players in the league.
Do you know what? I was looking at the stats of this because I didn't want to feel it was... But he's one of these players that I really, really like. And what's amazing about his stats is 3 goals, 5 assists, 1,071 passes this season, 84 crosses, 56% tackle success rate.
That man Smithy stand out.
Hey! He's got all aspects of his game, the goals, the assists, the tackles. So
really smart
you
player.
both agree. Let's, I suppose, stick him on.
Quick shout-out as well. I want to shout out as well Pedro.
Yeah,
who's
good
had
shout.
some incredibly crucial goals.
Yeah.
Particularly
in the Europa League, though.
Yeah, massive though for them. Let's not downplay
he's a Premier League list or is it the Europa League
list? Ever campaign in Europe.
Yeah, no, he's been huge for them.
Moving on to Burnley though, do we have a disagreement?
Yeah,
We've got Luka Koscielny.
I don't feel too strongly about this one. I thought it was difficult, honestly, finding a standout player for Burnley this season. It's been rough for them, and I think Berg has kind of come in there, been a senior midfielder in there. No one has really, for me, shone for Burnley from start to finish. But when I've watched them and when they've performed well, I think he's been pretty vital to that.
But for me, when it comes to spark and when it comes to adding that X factor and that Burnley team, it has to be this guy. When I look at Burnley, the only one that excites me watching them is this guy. He's chipped in with a goal. He's chipped in
his injury, isn't it?
Shame with the injury, but before the start of the season and whenever Burnley wants something, they look at this guy. And for me,
it's been electric. His dribble numbers are off the scale, aren't they?
Edging with.
It's Koscielny.
Okay. Next up, Chelsea. Interesting one. Obviously, we know not been the best start to the season for Chelsea, but this is best player of the season so far, and you both agree.
Let's go. It has to be Chelsea this season. I mean, they're 10th, 11th this season. Inconsistency.
12th in the league currently.
12th, or even worse. Whether that's the midfield, attack, defence, goalkeeper as well. But when it comes to the brightest spark, Cole Palmer, the most consistent player for them every single game. The fact that City offloaded him when Mahrez left and Gundogan left, it still baffles me.
Do you think he's been more consistent than Conor Gallagher this season?
Yes, and he's better than Conor Gallagher as well, too. I know Gallagher is the guy that we're trying to push forward, especially because his 2 running mates that cost over £100 million haven't lit the world up. But Cole Palmer at, 35, 40 million as well. One of the cheaper players they actually bought. But when we look at guys like Mudryk, is his footballing IQ at the level of an elite level player? He may not have the talent of an Enzo Fernandez. He's a brilliant player, don't get it twisted. But his footballing IQ, you can tell that this is a player that spent time under Pep, spent time in City's academy, and he's come into this leading light now at Chelsea with ease.
Technically so sound as well, isn't he? Let's get
5 goals, 2 assists. Obviously made his England debut as well this season.
Contender to go to the Euros, by the way.
Definitely.
Cole Palmer, like him and Anthony Gordon battling it out, I think, for similar sort of spots. But let's keep rolling through to Crystal Palace.
I've got Doucouré. For me, Ulisses been out with injuries, Eze's been out with injuries, but people always forget that this guy's been out with injuries as well. And whenever Crystal Palace has done well, it comes down to Doucouré. Defensively, he's the reason why this guy's having a good job. And going forward, Crystal Palace is always trying to, it comes down to this guy.
You think he's the reason why he's having a good job?
Whenever he plays, he's providing that security.
Man, come on, man. Joachim Anderson has been terrific for Crystal Palace. Not just defensively.
No,
not just the goals. When you look at the build-up from Crystal Palace as well, too, on the ball, this guy is wonderful. In terms of bringing the ball forward, in terms of finding splitting passes from the fence. Yes, he has chipped in with a few goals, but I think he is one of these standout center backs when it comes to like those mid-table teams. And to be honest, I think he's actually a level above Crystal Palace.
If you ask every Palace fan out there who's the most important player when it comes,
forget what we're doing. We're asking Joe, and
we ask Doucouré. Doucouré for them is the most vital in that midfield.
That is a massive injury blow, Doucouré.
True, but I think it'd be a massive injury blow if this guy went out too.
Close on this.
Yeah, it would. You think Anderson is the better centre back between him and Guehi?
I do, even though I do rate Guehi quite a lot.
But that's what I mean. You said he's got at least someone next to him. Doucouré is that midfield.
This isn't the most important player. This is who's been the best player. So don't try and twist it now.
Yeah, I think Faysal, again, man. I think the argument was really strong for the protection of the back line.
Let's go to Everton.
And there's been so many chopping and changing in the midfield.
And Faysal is such a massive fan of Doucouré.
Yeah,
he's gone with another Doucouré.
So good that
I have to,
back to back.
Back-to-back Doucourés.
I mean, listen, the fact that Frank Lampard refused and looked at him and said, you know what, I'm not going to play you, and just kept him on the bench is one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard in my life, bro. You've seen what Dyche has done to this guy. You've seen the way Everton has done this in this midfield. Yes, Garner's been there, Jack Harrison's been there, McNeil's been there, but this guy has been insane.
Yeah.
Going forward with Chelsea, couple goals there and there, defensively as well. An absolute workhorse.
To be fair, we don't know the ins and outs of those conversations with Lampard, or we don't know the ins and outs of them, but you're right, he's a good player in that sense. This is a good shout, though. This is a really good shout, Branthwaite.
Look, again, we're talking about brilliant centre backs from mid-table teams, and he has really come in there. And every Sean Dyche team that you can remember, the foundations are built from the back. And him, alongside James Tarkowski, have made Everton tough to play against again. Because for years, Goodison Park became a ground that everyone wanted to visit. This season, those two, and in particular him, because he is a big body, he is very athletic, very physical, but on the ball as well, too. A nice option on the left. I think he has been revolutionary for Everton this season.
I think that's a good shout. I would edge for Branthwaite as well. 71 clearances in the Premier League this season, by the way. Only Ethan Pinnock and Anderson have more, so maybe we did you a disservice with the Crystal Palace one.
First they call you crazy, then they understand.
I'm just 21 years old as well.
Yeah, really good season.
I think big clubs will be having a serious look at homegrown Jared Branthwaite.
Brilliant.
Fulham.
Yeah, Fulham.
Fulham, it's quite simple. Palhinha.
It's quite simple, Iwobi.
Okay.
Go ahead, talk to me about Painha.
Go on, tell me about Iwobi.
I think, look, Painha is Fulham's best player naturally, right? He was linked to Bayern Munich, for God's sake.
He's their most important player, isn't he?
I would say so as well, too. But the player that, for me, has impressed me the most this season has been Iwobi. Because we looked at him last season at Everton. We were almost thinking, has he kind of found his level? And he made the move to Fulham. I think a move that really went under the radar. But this season, creatively, he's given Fulham a massive spark for a team that last season, their XG was awful, especially when Mitrovic didn't play. This season, they look like a much more fluid team going forward, and I think a huge reason for that has been his inclusion. I mean, he's even got Raul Jimenez scoring goals. I mean, he looks really back to his best as well, but I think a big part of that is down to Iwobi's resurgence this year.
A lot of goals.
A huge reason comes down to Palhinha. I mean, listen, Iwobi's been good, but there's been other attacking pieces. Willian has been good recently. Andres Pereira has been good. Wilson's been good, but it all comes down to Palhinha, what he does defensively. The most tackles in the Premier League, the most important player. Defensively, the reason why Fulham has been conceding the last 3-4 games barely is because of this guy. Going forward as well, he's very crucial in the way he builds up from the back. That's what people don't know about Palhinha, the way maybe he's just a destroyer. He can play from the back.
Yeah, great player.
Amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that is a good point made.
Fighting an uphill battle will be there when Pellegrini is in the mix.
Yeah. Shout out Bernd Leno as well. I think Bernd Leno's had a good season.
As always.
Liverpool.
This one, I am shocked that you went with Trent.
Well, that's because he's on a campaign to get.
He thinks Trent is going to Real Madrid. Hey, he's not watching this right now. Actually, he might.
Should I go first?
Yeah, make your pitch. Make your pitch.
Salah has been amazing.
Yeah.
Salah's been great, but Salah was always great last season and the season before. Van Dijk is this season. We've seen a different Van Dijk.
So Botzlai as well. I think he's been.
Szoboszlai has been good, but when it comes to Liverpool, the reason why Liverpool are where they are this season is because of this guy. Compare Trent from last season, compare Liverpool from last season to this season, it's because of this guy, the improvement that he's made. Trent Alexander-Arnold not only has been the best right-back in the Premier League, Trent Alexander has been the best right-back in the world. And the way Liverpool's playing, last game, for instance, they were losing, Ender went off. They say, you know what, Trent, please go to the midfield. Do something for us. And he did that for us.
Talking about the Luton game.
The Luton game. That's why for 2025, 2026, Real Madrid.
Wow.
We are coming, baby.
Look, that's Trent has been brilliant this season, no doubt about it. But that's disingenuous to say that the difference between Liverpool last season and this season is Trent. The difference is that they literally signed 4 midfielders to basically replace a midfield that was decaying. That's a big reason.
And is it not the Van Dijk is back to be the best in the world?
Absolutely.
Van Dijk has been insane, but Salah last season had 20 goals, 19 assists.
Faysal, this is not the most important player. This is not the most improved player. This is who has been the best player for Liverpool this season, and it is their best player. The same way you made the argument for Painha.
Yeah.
Mo Salah is the picture of consistency.
I think he's got a point there. 11 goals and 7 assists.
He's inevitable. He's inevitable.
I'll be real, it's Salah, but I just had
I love Trent, but I think it's got to be
I
Salah.
think Van Dijk and Alisson deserve big shout-outs here as well. Alisson, in particular, just
a wall.
bizarrely amazing.
I think we can do Luton quite quickly.
Yeah.
You've both gone with
brilliant.
Ross Barkley.
Mr. Ross Barkley.
Stick him out, get him back to his best, and that's good to see, isn't it?
Great
He's
to
had
see.
some time out. Such a
I
good
really
player
like
on the
those
ball.
two as well. Shout out him. Let's
Man
go into
City.
Man City, yeah.
Let's have a look.
Mr. Rodri. This season, whenever City lose, it's because of when this guy's out. And it just shows you how important he is to that midfield and shows you how crucial he is to that midfield. And for me, he's been the best player this season. The best defensive midfielder in the world, for a reason.
I think he's definitely their most important player in terms of, like, City don't have a like-for-like replacement when he's gone. You can see Pep's reluctance to even play Calvin Phillips. But I think Bernardo Silva this season's level has been absolutely absurd. You look at the big games as well. He has his fingerprints all over them. Now, while Rodri has been really good, I think the absence due to suspension in a lot of games has to kind of come into account when you make this argument. Bernardo Silva has been there every single game. And when De Bruyne hasn't been there, when Rodri hasn't been there, he's still been playing at a consistently high level. And his chance creation, his work rate, for me, one of the most underrated players in world football, period.
But I can counter that when he has been playing every game and when he hasn't been playing every game, City don't win.
That's a systematic issue, bro. That's a systematic issue.
Do you know what? I think this is a really tough one. I'm personally edging towards Rodri.
I'm going Bernardo.
Are you? I think the fact that he's unbeaten in the last 44 games with City and all the 5 games that he hasn't played, Man City haven't
Do we have
won.
to take them into account? The fact that he hasn't played those 5 games.
Well, yeah, because they haven't performed when he hasn't played.
Exactly.
It's the difference, I think, with him in and without the team.
But don't you think that's down to the fact that City...
You're cooking.
Don't you think that's down to the fact, though, that City...
However, I do agree with you about him being underrated. I think he's been one of the most important players. But I think if we're doing it based on arguments, I think Faysal's argument... Rodri...
Hold on.
We'll let you go first for Man United then.
I don't want Man United. I want...
Let's keep moving through. I'm not happy with that one either.
This one is the hardest one to do, man, because honestly, you're looking at a bunch of underachievers. Who's been the least underachieving?
I want to get Joe's thoughts on this as well as United.
Harry Maguire, for me, has probably been Man United's best player this season. I'm not. That's hardly.
We laugh at that.
That's hardly. He has been massively improved from last season.
Premier League Player of the Month, Harry Maguire.
Yes. I mean, Bruno Fernandes hasn't done that, and I see that's the player that you picked. Look, it's tough to pick a player from United because all of them have been so poor, in my opinion. But Maguire, you have to respect the story that he's kind of gone through. Last season looked completely out of the picture. Over the summer, we thought he was going to West Ham, and he's kind of reintroduced himself in this team, persevered, had the captaincy stripped off him, and put in some really top performances from centre back. Now, I don't know if he's the future going forward, but this year, he has been the one guy United can realistically count on to put in consistent performances from one game to another. There's not a single player at United that you can realistically say that about this season.
Bruno?
I mean, he's been a good point.
It's a good point. Really good point.
It's been a very good point about Maguire. But then again, I don't know. I can't sit here and say to myself, has Maguire been United's best player? The answer is no. I think we're just doing a charity thing for him. Yes, he's been good. That little comeback season, he's doing well, but United's best player, let's be real for a second.
Bruno has not been United's best player.
Has been Bruno Fernandes.
You're a big Man United fan. You were shaking your head quite adamantly about that. Not for you.
This season, Bruno has...
He's got an agenda with Bruno.
I think the argument you made about Harry Maguire, the remontada of Harry Maguire, let's give him his flowers.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great to see that. And actually, the points that you made were good there. So we'll go with Harry Maguire.
After all the abuse and stick he's taken as well, I'm really happy.
So
to
unnecessary. A lot of the
Yeah, totally
I was buzzing for him that he won the Player of the World. By the way.
Newcastle.
I've gone with Anthony Gordon.
I've also gone with Anthony Gordon.
That one we could just...
Yeah,
by the way, apologies if any language was heard, any bad language. We'll move on, but go to the next one. Newcastle.
Yeah, Anthony Gordon is who I'm going with. To explain it real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that when he joined Newcastle last season, honestly, I kind of questioned the price tag
Newcastle just had this massive influx of money. Is this really the way they should be spending money? Honestly, he has been the player that has proved me wrong the most in the Premier League. His technical level, his IQ, his determination going forward. He drives the ball so well, and he's been such a creative spark for Newcastle this season. So honestly, big ups to him.
Yeah, total agreement there.
Do we think he's a contender to go legitimately to the Euros? Like, I know we were talking about Cole Palmer, but it feels like Anthony Gordon has been like a contender for the best left winger in the league this season.
The thing is about the wing position is quite difficult.
Competition replacing.
Is it on that
England's
left this
quite
season?
stacked
Which English players are playing well as a left winger this season?
You're talking about on form.
Yeah,
current form.
Grealish, Rashford, Sterling, they've all been in and out of form. I 100% agree with you.
I think he's
Foden
been the most
maybe,
in form left winger that's English in the country this season. I think like there are better players potentially in terms of their status and what they've done in the game and their experience at international and Premier League level. But on form, Anthony Gordon's goal output, how hard he works off the ball, his ability on it, I think he's got to be a contender for getting on that plane.
Definitely a contender.
Definitely. So we'll go Gordon.
Okay, next up.
Forest.
I've gone with Aurora Mangala.
I've gone with Awoniyi. Another one who, again, his injury recently is going to be a big loss for them because he is so crucial to them in terms of his hold-up. The guy's a battering ram up front and also has a really, really good eye for goal. Scored some big goals this season against some big teams, Man United, Arsenal. I think they're going to need to go into the window this January because his loss, they'll struggle for goals without him.
I agree. I mean, his loss has been crucial, but I feel like this season with Forest, they've been very inconsistent. The midfield has been consistent. They bought Sangare, they bought Dominguez. Gibbs White's not the same player as last season. Hudson-Odoi has been injured, but I think one of the most consistent players for them this season has been Mangala. Every time he steps up, every time he's that main man in that midfield, and whenever Forest does something, it comes down to Mangala.
Tough one here, isn't it? Any other shouts we want to make here? I think Anthony
Elanga's been
I think Murillo. I think
Murillo, I was gonna say
centre-back. The
centre-half.
centre-back has been good, but
I thought one of you might mention Maria.
he's been good at centre-back. But I feel like Mangala has just been consistent throughout the whole season.
Yeah, they've conceded a lot of goals as well, haven't they? So let's go for Mangala. I think you made a good point. And with Awoniyi, I think it's just the 4 so far this season because of the injury problems. And I think you've got to take the injury problems into account a little
Sheffield United. Let's see who you've gone with here.
I got with McAtee. This again is a tough one, honestly, because you're really looking for like roses and let me not say what I was going to say, but Sheffield United have had a tough season. He's a player I really like. You look at the City Academy; they've produced some really top players over the last few seasons. Foden, Rico Lewis, the 2 boys who scored in midweek in the Champions League for them, massive for them as well. Yeah, Micah,
Palmer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You have some really top players in there, and I think he's
Michael
Hamilton.
Yeah.
But he for me is up there in terms of players that could make that next step. I don't know if it's going to be for City, but he's a Premier League
Still
player.
only 21 as well.
Yeah.
Worth pointing out. And interesting, when I did a feature with Cole Palmer early on the season, he was singing his praises.
And they've won
Training,
2 games
very,
this season.
very
He's had goal contributions in both of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Screamer.
Good arguments.
As well,
good arguments,
recently.
mate.
I can't lie. I'll go with him instead.
Because his argument was that good, you're changing your mind.
Yeah,
I like
no,
it.
because I forgot completely about him.
Yeah.
I looked at their midfield and I looked at what they've lacked, and I completely forgot about McAtee.
That's good honesty, I'm not going to lie.
Do you know what? I respect that. You've argued that well.
There you go.
Gustavo Hamer as well,
there we go.
potentially.
Yeah, I think Hamer, though,
recently.
recently has been better because he's kind of moved positions a little bit. But McAtee, I'm a big fan.
Okay, Spurs. A
this is
lot of
tough,
contenders
this.
for this. I think this is tough to single out one player.
I've gone with Vicario.
Yeah, good shout, by the way. Why Vicario?
I feel like Spurs this season, the reason why they are where they are comes down to actually the system that he's built for James Maddison's son coming back. But Vicario's been so crucial for them. There's been so many games this season that Spurs could have lost or drawn if it wasn't for Vicario. Yesterday is an example when they beat Forest, but he's made crucial
saves.
Crucial save after crucial saves. Son's comeback is good. James Maddison before the injury was great, but when we look at the X factor and the MVP for Spurs this season is Vicario.
I'm going to see how honest you guys are
The
here.
stats do back him up, though, because it conceded 4.65 fewer than XG on target. Only 2 keepers better than that. 49 saves before last night's game. 4 clean sheets, no errors leading to goal.
I'm going to see how
in his
consistent you
debut
guys are right now because he made so many arguments about since this guy has been out, they've lost games, and he won it. So James Maddison, since he's been out of this Spurs team has sunk like a stone. And you were the one saying he was the signing of the season in the Premier League.
Won the last 2 games and scored 6 goals.
Yeah, but they went through a rough patch without James Maddison. Heung-Min Son, all of a sudden, the goals were starting to dry up. His kind of insertion into the team.
He was amazing.
He was amazing.
He was amazing.
When you were saying the signing of the season in the Premier League.
People were actually is calling him his player of the season, not just
was in
midfielder.
that
Obviously,
conversation
one
as well,
player of the
too.
month.
But hold on. You just said whilst he's been out, yes, but Chelsea, that game ended 3-1. It could have been 6-7-1. City 3-3. It could have been 6-7-3.
Okay.
It's actually 4-1.
They would have scored more goals if Maddison was on the pitch. Absolutely.
How Vicario has been the most important player.
You just said he conceded 4 and 3.
But it could have been worse if it wasn't for
my days, this
Vicario.
is-
I think by XG conceded, Tottenham are like middle of the pack. They're like 11th. But and I think a large reason that they're not conceding that level is.
He has been
And on
very
top
good,
of
but
that, if
Maddison
you
has
want to
been
add,
very good.
Romero's been out, Van der Vil's been out. He's been having to rely on Ben Davies and Davison Sanchez as a.
And they're still conceding goals, but that's the point. He's not like he's keeping clean sheets in these games. He's still conceding.
Whatever back line, he does his job.
I think a
consistently.
couple of other shouts as well. I think the fullbacks. I think Porro and Doggy have
Porro and Doggy have been brilliant.
sensational.
I've got to shout out Kulusevski, covered more ground than any player in the Premier League, and he's been utilised in about 3-4 different positions.
You're not neutral on this, so I'll make this.
If you don't put Maddison,
It's Maddison.
I was gonna say if you don't put Maddison.
No, it's got to be Maddison.
Yeah,
I think you made a good point, but
Huge loss.
Madders has been just different.
Huge
level
loss
when
for
he's been
Spurs
there.
when he's not playing.
So let's go
West
on
Ham.
to West Ham, which I think is hard.
I think Bowen has just been, again, you talk, okay, he's not Salah, but in terms of being that consistent goal-scoring figure for his team, this guy, every single game is there for them. And he had that little period where he was out with injury, and West Ham actually struggled to score goals. I'm a massive fan of Paqueta, one of my favorite players in the league, but Bowen, honestly, the last 2 seasons, that responsibility that he's taken in terms of scoring goals, where they really don't have an out-and-out goal scorer. Antonio is in and around the
He's
goal,
had to play up front at
Scamacca,
times.
100%.
9 goals and an assist, though.
He
Great
carries their offense, honestly, their offensive load.
Carries a bit, it's a harsh word. I mean, it comes down to what Paqueta's done. Last season, we've seen what Moyes has now realised. Last season, you know what, let me just give the keys to Paqueta. And now we're seeing a bit more responsibility in Paqueta. We're seeing a bit more. Some of the games that they dominate comes down to how Paqueta is. He's playing him where he wants to play as a 10. And Bowen's success and Kudus as well. Shout out to Kudus, he's been decent in the last couple of form. But Paqueta, the last 3-4 months, has been insane.
I think
isn't it?
it is tough. I'd edge with Bowen.
Yeah, so
based
would
on
I.
what he said in the
I
season.
also think Edson Alvarez is just now so crucial to how West Ham want to play
Stick him
football.
up.
Without him, then I think it's a problem.
Right, finally, Wolves.
Yeah.
I've got one
We
chance.
always neglect.
Yeah, let's spend some time on Wolves.
Let me give you guys a good, some
Just
good
for Wolves
insight.
fans, it is done alphabetically, so there's no reason why they lost. Here we go.
Pedro Neto, it's unfortunate, right? And I can
Such a
understand why you would
shame
go
his
for
injuries.
Hwang,
He
because
was
when this
flying.
guy was playing, man, already it was sad to see the injuries he had before, but he recovered so well this season. At one point, had the most assists in the league.
Yeah.
Was crucial going forward for them in terms of taking on players, creating chances, scoring goals.
assists he's
Yeah. So he's been really good. But I'm gonna return the favourite to Faisal because Hwang as well too has been excellent. I wouldn't mind choosing.
Neto was going to be my choice before he got the ACL, but now Hwang, ever since he went
Well,
down.
he's back though next week, I think.
That's big for them.
Hamstring.
Ever since he went, sorry, the hamstring.
Yeah.
Ever since he went down, this guy's been stepping up for Wolves.
Yeah.
And most of Wolves' games, that's so many games.
His home record for Wolves.
Home record,
8
over
goals
7
this season.
eight
Well,
goals
let's
this
stick
season.
Hwang up then. 8 goals, 2 assists.
8 goals.
Brilliant
It's
for Wolves.
sensational, isn't it? I
Brilliant
think new
for Wolves,
contract
yeah.
incoming, if not.
Another underrated player. So there is confirmation of every Premier League club's best player this season. Very busy Saturday social whiteboard there. I think some good shouts there.
Yeah.
Couple maybe people might want to have their say on, but I think overall pretty good. Let us know what you think at home.